You have clicked on Intuitive F2L. Now, this is going to be more of a discussion rather than a lesson. I'm going to show you some things with the cube, but this is more of to help you be aware and make your own mind up on certain topics. Now, there are two ways to solve F2L. There's the intuitive way, and then there's the algorithm way. Basically, in cubing terms, intuitive way means no algorithms. However, you're going to find that while you're solving things without being triggered to perform algorithms, what you're doing is algorithms without thinking about it. And the reason for that is because you can just see how things go together, and you are actually making an algorithm in your head and performing it without realizing it. The dictionary definition for intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. So say for algorithms, you know you're performing an algorithm without even having to think about it. That is, you are not consciously reasoning with yourself, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. You're going to get to a point where you're unconsciously performing it. You're not thinking about it. It's very easy for you. It seems obvious, and you're going to become very, very fast. So from being not intuitive to something to being very, very intuitive to something, there are 4 stages to this. The first one is being unconsciously incompetent, which means you are incompetent in doing something, but you don't even know that because you don't know that it exists, say before you even started learning how to solve a cube. Then you become consciously incompetent, which means that you start learning something. So you're like, oh, okay, so say if you are a very beginner and you've seen some of my previous videos, you're like, oh, well, F2L is done like that. Well, I didn't know that. Well, you still don't know how to do it, but yet you know it exists. So you're conscious of it, but you're incompetent of doing it. The next stage is being consciously competent, which means that, okay, so now I understand how to do it and I can start figuring these things out, but I still really have to think about it. You know, I am conscious that I am competent enough to do it. And the very last stage is unconsciously competent, which means that you're competent to do it, but you don't even have to think about that anymore. So you've come from one extreme to the other, and that is becoming not intuitive to intuitive. So for these 4 stages of learning, you're going to go through all 4 of those basically with anything that you do in your entire life. Now, especially with the cube, you went through all 4 for the beginner's method. If you can solve the beginner's method within 1 minute, you're probably unconsciously competent now. You don't really have to think about it. And when you stop being able to think about something and you just start doing it without even having to think, your mind wants to learn more, which is why now you're looking into F2L. And the beauty thing about doing intuitive F2L is that you want to learn. You know, it's fun for you. You're learning your own ways to do it. You're not being told to do it this way. You know, you're adapting, being able to move the pieces around your own way. You're starting to understand things a lot more. Everything's exciting. It's very fun. Whereas the algorithm-based stuff, sure, it is a bang shot on getting the F2L, but you're not really understanding how the pieces are moving around the cube very much. But when you're learning the algorithms intuitively, well, then you are, because you had to think them through. I would say that with my F2L skills right now, I'm probably consciously competent. I still have to think about things, which stops me from being able to track pieces around the cube as fast as I would like to. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in looking ahead. You can find that in the F2L homepage. So I'm going to give this a scramble, and I'll do my cross and I'll show you how I do F2L. Okay, so right off the bat, I am seeing cases already. And so the way that I do it, I come up with my own things. Like I have to separate these. Okay, I'm going to get this one over its color, and I'm going to match them up and put them in. Now, to a certain stage of that, I know what I'm doing. So for this one here, I see that it can be matched up with 1 pair. Now, during this, I can see that it's got to go back there. Now, if I was unconsciously competent of doing this, I would be able to perform that without thinking about it. And in doing so, I can look for my next pieces. That is in the section looking ahead. We're going to get really deep into that in the next section. But for right now, this is just an example solve. See, I put it in wrong because I am not as efficient as I would like to be at it yet. that one just happened to be there. Anyway, so that's just a little example solve of mine. That didn't really help anything, but as you can see, I'm not super fast at finding my pairs yet, and that is because I can't track my pieces, and the reason for that is because I am still consciously competent of it, and the goal is to become unconsciously competent. Okay, so like I said, this was just a general discussion on whether you want to do algorithms or intuition. I highly recommend intuition. It's going to be a lot more fun, and you can spend your time learning your OLL and PLL algorithms instead of these little F2L algorithms that you're going to learn anyways by doing it intuitively. And plus, doing it intuitively is just going to help you understand your way of solving the Rubik's Cube a whole lot better. I do suggest that at some point you go into the F2L homepage and you look at the algorithms and just look at the cases as I'm showing them. And if they seem very familiar to you, then learn the algorithm. Just because some of them come up way more often than others, and it is good to know some algorithms for F2L. Okay, I hope by now that I have helped you understand what intuitive F2L is compared to algorithm-based F2L, and that you would make your mind up on which way that you would like to go. I highly suggest intuitive stuff and learn a few of the F2L algorithms. And now you can click anywhere on the page and you'll be directed back to the F2L homepage.